Welcome back, guys, to Parables and Pastiche. This is our 8th episode, and this is a bit of a random episode today. What we're going to do is we're just going to chat. We're going to talk about some headlines and check out some, things going on in the world. We were a bit bored, and there's just some stuff that we're like, maybe we ought to talk about this on stream. So we don't have any type of a presentation or anything for you today. It's just going to be a little bit more of a relaxed chill show, and we'll see how it works out. So I'm obviously joined with Devin and Prophet, my two co-hosts. So we hopefully will give you some interesting things to think about today.
Yeah, thank you, Urban. Yeah, it's good to have everybody, and excited to start the show today.
Yeah.
So times that we're living in are definitely wild. I mean, that's about all I can say. The things that are going on in the world, the things that we're watching unfold. I said earlier to Prophet and Devin, I said I don't really think that we will understand the gravity of them until we view them from hindsight in the future. They say hindsight is 2020, which it is. If you look back at things in your life, you'll notice that they're not quite good or bad. They're kind of in between. The bad things in your life will hopefully lead you to a position of strength in the future. Fire tests gold, as they say. But it really is this dawn of a new day is what they keep pushing. That symbolism, a golden age, a new tomorrow, dawn of a new day, make America great again. And that is a old symbol. Victory is a new day. It's one and the same symbol. So, Devin, let's start with you. What are you seeing right now in the world? What do you think? What do you think with everything that's going on?
Yeah, and I think that's a very good introduction, and I think one thing that I really want to continue that your thought was on is that hindsight is 2020, and that we'll be looking on this era with a lot of reverence or whatever have you. It just depends on how history plays out, but I think whatever political camp you're in, whatever ideologies you want to push, at the end of the day, what is currently happening in our system, specifically our financial system, the precedent when we're talking about in a historical perspective with the debt loads that we are currently at, with the financial, it's just completely unprecedented amounts of financial deregulation for banks. And truly just looking back, like I don't think people really understand how much debt the global economy is currently in and what our economies are even based on. I mean, this debt experiment that we're in right now, and that we've been in since we really started unwinding the gold standard in the 80s, is very, very profound. And just the idea, if you were to tell your grandparents, right, if you were to tell your great-great-grandparents and say, oh, yeah, we were getting 3% interest loans on our houses at one point, right? I know some people that got like 2.5%. That is insane. And I don't think the average person, if you don't have a background in economics, really can grasp how low that interest rate is and how cheap we made cash for such a long period of time. And this is why the reason why we even really started making this episode today was because the precedent that are being set right now that Elon and that Trump is doing are really shaking up the financial bureaucracy and the financial status quo that has really been in play since 2008, but really since they've taken us off the gold standard. And if the Trump administration really does for the first time, and this isn't anything to do, this is just the fact that if they really do take on the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve and start questioning what's happening with government spending, okay, there's about to be a very, very large dislocation in our government and the financial system, and a war is about to start, to say the least.
Here, I have a question. I'm going to put up a few tabs just of some news sources, and we can kind of look through those together if you'd like.
Sure.
And you can just comment on them, and if there's one that we want to take a look at, we'll open it up and take a look. I want to just kind of get our opinions on a few different, things going on in the world. So let's see. Let me put this up. Here we go. There's that. Then we'll do presentation. And stop that. There we go. Okay, so I've got Ground News, which is one of the sources, or like one of the sites that I like to use. But I've also got this one, which is a little bit more off the beaten path. But some of the news articles that come through here are very interesting, and they will talk about things that no one else talks about. So, Devin, why don't you go ahead and pick one of these, and we'll take a look at it. Which one looks interesting?
Um. Oh, dude, of course, the Trump committed to buying and owning Gaza. I mean, that was such a. I was watching that go down when he was on the podium with Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's one thing that I think blew by a lot of people. You know, I mean, he literally. This is a Zero Hedge article too. I love Zero Hedge. Um, this is even more precedent being set, and you know, you can go in a lot of different ways with conspiracy, but I think at the end of the day, the genocide that is being that is being done upon the Palestinian people in the name of just expanding Israel's territory, you know, I think that it definitely calls for people to look into it a little more.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a few articles opening up here that we're sending in the chat.
Is that all that articles? I doubt there's probably any more novel news on that.
Let's
And then
see. There's a little bit more.
Just
They
me
don't
being
want to
stupid.
return.
But how do you buy Gaza?
well, you have to
Like
genocide all the people first that are living
like
there.
that yeah, exactly. That would be my thought. There's people living there. You can't just make it a US territory. That would be a really bad idea. Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm with Devin here. I mean, you got to. That's what war is. War is a racket. That was the name of a book. I think it was Smedley Butler, who was the one who blew the whistle on that fascist plot during World War II, where Prescott Bush and all of them were going to install a fascist dictatorship. And so he wrote a book called War is a Racket, and it really is. So, you know, you buy all these. You mean how much? I don't even know. I don't. The number is so crazy now. We have sent them billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in aid. That comes back to the United States for the bombs. Then you bomb all of Gaza. You kill all the people, and then you buy the land for dirt cheap, and you turn it into a 15-minute smart city. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a 15-minute smart city.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think that just the collusion that these like large military contractors have with the government, it just shows such a clear line, and just shows such a clear point of corruption where, you know, increased government spending in the military, more war, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you have Raytheon, General Dynamics, and Boeing and all these major military contractors pumping out hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment, you can't just let it sit. How are you going to justify that on the budget? So the same way, you know, your supervisor might say to you when the budgets get brought up, hey, don't say that we didn't spend this much, right? Let's throw a $5,000 pizza party or whatever. It's the same thing with that with the government in the military, right? The military doesn't want to get its budget cut, so what does it do? It has to create more conflict, and it's a very large portion of our GDP. I'm actually going to look that up. I forget what it is.
This is interesting. It says only 13% of those surveyed believe that it's a good idea, and 47%, so almost half, think it's a bad idea. Another 40% are unsure, or it depends. Yeah, this was definitely a bombshell. This was something that I wasn't expecting. It's very interesting. Let's see. This is an article that was it you, Prophet, who sent this? The Chinese hacker.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and just give us your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, my thoughts on that are when Biden told that to Congress, I believe, there was absolutely no uproar at all when he admitted that yeah, China, they had access to, you know, our US financial files and data. But the moment that Doge starts digging in, there's all this uproar, which just makes me wonder where where that party's allegiance lies, you know?
Well, we know that. Um, so when Joe Biden had left office as vice president, so after the first Trump term, Joe Biden had apparently he was a professor. So Joe Biden got a professorship, a post teaching, but and again he was being paid about $1 million a year. That's a lot of money.
Well,
So he must have been
no,
teaching.
what are you talking about? That's an average teacher's salary.
Well, hold up. You got to remember he didn't even have to show up, not once. He just didn't show up. He didn't even need to teach. He didn't have to go and lecture. He just
Well, don't you know online school? No, I'll stop. I'll stop. That's so crazy.
Okay, but long story short, they found out that this money came from the Chinese. So where does the party allegiance lie? Well, I think a great deal of it. And as we're finding out, all these Chinese spies within the Democrat Party, uh, yeah, I think that's where their allegiance lies. I mean, let's be real. And I'm not saying that the Republicans don't have issues of their own, because I feel
Mm-mm.
like the Republicans definitely have the same issue. It might be different nations. I can't speculate, but I just think if one party's doing it, the other party's definitely doing it too. These people
Oh
need to be
yeah.
reelected. That's what it's about. If you or me or Devin don't have money for their reelection, we can get lost. They don't care about that. If you got money, well, then they'll talk to you.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is the fact that, if basically our entire manufacturing base comes from China, I mean, how could you expect not to have a few Chinese spies in our government, right? I mean, how much of our manufacturing and supply chain have we basically willingly handed over to China over the past 40 years? And then now when it's politically advantageous for politicians to shit on China, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a big part about the status quo. It's at the end of the day, what these politicians say does not matter. What is going on is they are selling out America, and they've been selling out America for decades to the highest bidder. And whoever can generate the most profit is going to win in every scenario. And this is why it's almost ridiculous to talk about the partisan politics, because at the end of the day, there's such a bipartisan agreement in the financial realm to consistently bail out every single corporation that overspends and entrenches our economy in debt. It's all just a very big joke. People will never talk about the things that matter.
See, so this article right here, I saw Health and Human Services. Now, one thing that nobody talks about is this company called Maximus Inc. And they're involved in all of the medical databases. They're involved in all of the medical passports. They're involved in all of the government's databases. They own all the databases. They have the most private government contracts of any company, and nobody has even heard of them. Let's see. Yeah, they are basically the deep state incorporated. That's true. I'm going to link my good friend Jack Pendergrass. He is the guy who has done all this research on Maximus, and he's very good at that. So I'm going to link him. But I just saw Health and Human Services funding, and I wonder if Maximus is mixed up in it. They're into privatizing child protective services. Um, let's see. Um, yeah, they operate worldwide government health and human services programs on a global basis with no oversight. They have over 400 subsidiaries. Let's see. Obamacare databases. Yep. Um, Obama received a comprehensive course in Saul Alinsky during his years as community organizer in Chicago. So one of the Maximus handlers, yeah, he was educated by these, which means, in my opinion, since you have the Maximus bloodline of the Roman emperors, I feel like this is definitely a Roman operation of some sort. I mean, that's just evident by the name and by the fact that all the educators are usually Jesuits. They are the ones that run the colleges, run the schools. So it's very likely Roman. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh yeah, they're associated with the Fabian Society, socialism, which is Ing Sok from 1984. That's the Fabian Society. Federal student loan servicing contract novation completed. Yeah. See, these guys are mixed up in everything. They have got their hand. Oh, patents. Here it is. Let's see, what was this patent for? It doesn't say. I got another one here though. Here's all their subsidiaries. Literally all kinds of subsidiaries. This goofy
Oh
looking
my,
dude is
what is that guy is so goofy? What is
Yeah,
wrong?
he's the founder. My father and I have been involved with MK Ultra experiments, Black Ops, and collecting biometrics data on every single American since the 50s. Yeah, it's the here it is, CDC Vaccine Order Management Contact Center. Yeah, smart card scripting tool. They own the patent on that. These guys are definitely something that you should look into. So I wanted to bring that up, but we can.
Yeah,
You
this
guys have
is
any thoughts on this?
crazy. No, I'm just kind of soaking it all in. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think that there's at the end of the day, there's the collusion happens at the necessity for all the parties to be working together with each other. I mean, you don't need a massive holding corporation. That conspiracy could 100% be true, but at the end of the day, you don't need a general actor controlling everything, because you simply have every state actor wants the system to keep working, and they want the Ponzi scheme to keep perpetuating. It's all in everyone's interest to keep the game going, or else they're not going to be in power anymore. It's all about maintaining power and maintaining bureaucracy.
very true.
And this is why democracy is such a joke at the end of the day, because the average citizen cannot discern, even if let's assume the electorate was acting in good faith to try and improve the quality of life for the average American. Even in that case, the average American is not equipped with enough data and enough understanding, or even enough time to get to these conclusions with how much they're overworked, to really understand the political, just to even understand Biden versus Trump with all the nuances that go into it. So I think that it's, this system is being perpetuated by a lot of different things, and I think that it's ignorance and similar agendas that make all this stuff run on a fundamental basis.
Very true. I'm just saving all of these links because I'm actually going to be putting them in the description so people can read them themselves. But let's see. Here's some. Bill Gates funnels $30 million through USAID. That's very interesting.
That's really
You,
nothing, though.
Yeah,
It's a drop in the bucket.
Oh, it's a drop in the bucket. It's just interesting that now all of this is just, well, yeah, this is what they did in 1913. In 1913, Congress published a report from, it's called the Pujo Committee, and they said, yep, all the bankers have a virtual monopoly on the American government. And now we're going to fix that for you by passing the Federal Reserve Act. So that's what they're doing. They got to do a controlled demolition of the old
yeah.
system.
I mean, if we want to go on the USAID thing, I posted a X thread that's got some good little headlines on what we've been spending USAID on.
Okay, let me open that up. I'll retweet it too.
Crazy how X has become essentially the news platform that all other major news platforms get funneled into.
All right.
So a good start, 2 million for sex changes and LGBTQ activism in Guatemala.
In Guatemala. Okay. That's great. Let's see. That's crazy. And we're charging people hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to college for 4 years. And meanwhile, we are sending 2 million $2 million to, where did you say it's going? Let's see. To
Guatemala.
strengthen, here it is, activity to strengthen trans led organizations to deliver gender affirming healthcare, advocate for improved quality and access to services, and provide economic empowerment opportunities.
If
For,
only you knew how bad things really were.
well, I mean, I'm glad that we're giving opportunities to Libya or wherever the hell this is.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you live in the United States, well, you can get lost, really.
Oh, and if you're not trans in Libya, then none of this goes to you.
I don't even believe that. Are there trans people in Libya? Like, how many are there? 6 million and bilateral assistance for Egypt. So at this point, it really seems like literally every other country that is not the United States is getting just a lot of opportunities from us.
But at the end of the day, $6 million is 60 kids being sent to fucking medical school. Like,
Okay, well, I'd
these are
rather
pill in
it
the
be
bucket.
American
The biggest,
kids,
the
not.
biggest thing, the biggest thing is the fact that like this is a very interesting statistic. So the EU in 2019, okay, was the entire market cap of the entire European Union, okay? So every single country in the European Union bloc, it was worth $8 trillion. The US, okay, at that time was around $45 trillion. And there's just such a skew happening. Like it's Keynesian economics. There's been a brain rotting in Americans, and the real enemy is fiscal policy, and is how we understand how debt works. You know, we because of recency bias have been brainwashed into thinking that having a $35 trillion deficit makes sense. The reason why things are expensive is because of the $35 trillion deficit, and because of a stock market that's $50 trillion and needs servicing all the time. The amount of liquidity, okay, that's going into Apple every single day could pay for every single sex change on the planet times 10. Okay. Like there's so much money in the financial system that is being illegally fucked over, that is illegally fucking over Americans multiple ways, through inflating our currency and through making assets unattainable in multiple different ways. And at the end of the day, like, I think that them spending a few $1 million on some trans kids literally doesn't mean anything. It genuinely doesn't. The only reason why the government is even able to spend like a retard like this is because we have fundamentally misapproached how debt is and how debt should function in a developed economy. And this is where the biggest scheme is. And it's resides within Keynesian economics, and it resides within how the colleges are teaching young kids, and how high schools are teaching young kids how the economy works. And Keynesian economics is a whole entire rabbit hole. But just to say it quick, Keynesian economics believes that as long as you keep tax rates at a consistent rate, and you keep expanding the debt load, as long as you keep inflating the debt load beyond your tax rate, meaning as long as inflation rates keep outpacing your tax rate, or as long as inflation rates don't outpace your tax rates, then you can always keep expanding the deficit, because the government has a monopoly on expanding the deficit with the Federal Reserve, because they've devalued money and debased it from gold. So the Federal Reserve can literally keep buying treasuries infinitely, okay, and keep expanding this debt load, and then we pay for it. The interest that is funding the entire treasury market, okay, is coming from our tax dollars. The only way the federal government generates income at this point is through tax receipts that are funneled in from the treasury. Those tax receipts then go to pay interest to all the different banks and shareholders in the financial system. And that's a whole nother way they're laundering American money to the banks in massive degrees. And the Federal Reserve and central banking, it really is it's going to be one of the most catastrophic trends of our lifetime. And I would say the whole reason why they're even able to do all this retarded spending is simply because of this broken philosophy that is running our governments.
Yeah, I agree with you
Boom.
100%.
Boom.
That's
Well, I
just
don't expect you to have the answer to this question, but I'm interested to know if you have a thought. If the only goal of this administration was to fix that, how do you think they could go about doing that? Or
Well,
is there a way?
and that's a very good question. It all starts with auditing. Okay, like with any shittily run company, with like any shittily run corporation, anything, person, anybody, you have to audit the spending. Okay, and before to audit the spending, you have to get the data. Okay, and that's exactly what Elon's starting to do with the treasury spending data, and that's going to be very big. And if he can really get into the treasury and sink his teeth into that and start ripping apart all of the fraudulent spending, that is the first goal. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing, Prophet, is the philosophy around deficits, right? And Keynesian economics. Because if everyone, people have gotten so used, and this is a problem as well. The everyday average American, can you blame them for having to buy a house with a mortgage? I mean, of course not, because the system has outpaced consumers so massively, okay, that we have to now go into debt to own assets. That's how fucked things are. But we are being conditioned
Debt
to
debt is
believe,
assets.
well, let's not get it. That's very complicated. Yes, you're right, but that's like very complicated. But my point is the fact that, like, fuck, I lost my train of thought.
My bad.
No, you're fine. But yes, the philosophy around deficits is the absolute biggest thing. And like, people need to realize that this system is not working for them and is outpacing them in a very profound way. Okay. Like, wages have been outpacing Americans for decades now. Okay. And ever since the 2008 financial crisis, millennials never recovered, and wages have stagnated since then. And it's getting even worse. This is a statistic from early 2024. It was, if you made $100,000 during COVID, okay, you now make around $92,000 in early 2024. Okay. And, all these different things. Is there a way that I can share my screen?
Yeah, give me just a second. I'm going to grab some water real quick.
But all these different things, and I'm pulling up all the metrics right now to show everyone, what all of this is, because there's a lot of different charts that I can show people to really put a number to all this stuff. One really good example that I always give people to really help their minds understand and sink their teeth into the level of inflation that we are entrenched in. This is a first really good one. The average home price in 1950 was $7,700. And that's when the average man made around $3,200 a month.
That makes me want to scream
or
like
a
a
year.
monkey.
So
$3,200 a year.
he was making about half the value of his house per
Yes.
year. Okay, do you need to share your screen?
So I would
yeah.
literally have to
Okay.
be a submit or why do I always forget the word? Submersion diver making 250 a year working on oil rigs to have that same ratio
Yep.
for the average housing
You have to be
price.
basically risking your life to 25 times the average person to be able to get anywhere close to what the boomers had in financial. Yep. And this is just like really just shows it. And can people see my? Okay, cool.
Yep.
So this is the first really interesting chart that I like to show people, because one really like fundamental question that I like to ask is, do we think that American wealth and prosperity, okay, and this is why measuring things through the financial system is so fucked on every single level imaginable. Because let me ask everyone, if we just take the medium range of the 1920s, okay, through the 30s, and then we track how much the Dow has gone up. So since the 1950s, we'll say, okay, the Dow has gained over 50,000% in value. Okay. Do we think that the American economy since the baby boom, okay, in the 1950s has expanded 50,000%?
Fuck no.
Well, the next question I would ask, if someone said yes to that, are we mining asteroids? And have we colonized the entire fucking solar system yet? And do we have a half-built Dyson sphere around the sun? No. Okay, well then the Dow, from a material perspective, if we're judging things from, and this is where I'm going to unlock people's brains a little bit if you haven't realized this yet. So this is why stock valuations in GDP and all of these different metrics, if not measured against the inflation rate, are completely useless. Okay? Because if we look at the Dow going up 50,000% over, the past 70 years, that might seem really good until I show you this chart. Because since 1959, and this is the amount, this is M2, and M2 usually always, it isn't the best gauge of exponential inflation over time, but it's one of the best. M2 is basically outstanding monetary supply, right? The amount of dollars currently outstanding in the system. Okay. So M2 since, the 1960s has gone from 287 billion, okay, to around 21 trillion dollars, okay? And that increase in money supply is just another beautiful metric to show this insane exponential expansion in inflation, okay? And this is where the game is, okay? And you can also see, look what happened during 2020. Remember where they bazookaed trillions of dollars into the system to bail out after they forced us into a recession? Look what happened. We went from 15,000 or 15 trillion to then, oh, bam, $18 trillion all of a sudden, okay? Or my bad, this isn't 18 trillion. This is $180 trillion. So as we keep going up, it's all the same thing. And this is also why looking at these charts is very important, because if anyone's familiar with what a logarithmic function is, we are now going exponential. And, this is hopefully what Trump is going to stop going up. But this chart is one of the best proxies of what hyperinflation is in the economy. And the deeper this goes up, the more inflation that we feel. And it lags. This isn't the best. This is a very lagging indicator. But from a macro basis, from a 5-decade out, this is a very good indicator for exponential inflation. And this is all these things. They're very yep.
I was just gonna say, how would you take what you just presented, like what you just presented to us, summarize it, and make I guess a thesis behind it? Give us your thesis. What is this showing you? What conclusions are you drawing from it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what is going on is it really is that shift. It's a shift that happened in the 80s. Okay. And it was the shift away from basing our currency. Okay. And this is a very interesting thing, especially with this chart to pull up. So what happened, okay, after the very large expansion from the baby boom, a lot of this you could argue was natural growth in the economy in the US, because you had the baby boom after World War II and you had all these new families. And then we also were the very undisputed winners of World War II, having all of our industries not bombed to shit and basically becoming the biggest trade partners to Europe and all of the other affected worlds. So a lot of this, you could argue, was growth, okay? And to really answer your question, Urban, this is what took us off the gold standard. This is what started this fiat currency experience, okay? What happened was policymakers and the financial institutions had a lost 2 decades in the stock market. Imagine we had 2 decades now where the stock market doesn't go up for 2 decades. Okay, that sounds insane to normal people nowadays. Okay, and we even had the same thing happen here. Okay, whenever we topped during the dot-com bubble and we put in a major liquidity top. Okay, and that one only lasted 12 years. It lasted a lot less. It lasted almost half as this period. And really what I'm trying to get at when I explain this is that whenever countries hit peak expansions of growth in their populations, okay, meaning whenever their populations start to level out and they stop having babies and their labor starts getting educated, whenever that starts happening in a very extreme way, you start to have a stagnation, okay? And that stagnation has been cured through augmenting the very fundamental way that we define money, okay? And it happened right here when they took us off the gold standard. It's not a coincidence that they take us off the gold standard in 1980, mid-1980, and then all of a sudden, the stocks unpin until the dot-com bubble. And then the dot-com bubble puts in a cycle liquidity top until 2008, and then the 2008 financial crisis necessitates policymakers to come in and then now base the Ponzi scheme based on government debt, okay? So this expansion, this artificial expansion, okay, because U.S. population on a growth rate, it's peaked for a very long time, and that's one of the best measures. It's that, and educated labor is one of the best measures for a peaking out of a global or of a large economy like the U.S. And that's why we hit these very obvious plateaus, and then the expansion out of these plateaus and markets are defined by another redefining of money or debt or of monetary policy in some sort of way. So really, to answer your question, Urban, this all resides within how the colleges are teaching all of the.
Is that on my end, or did he
No,
just
that
cut?
he just cut out.
Yeah, you just cut, Devin, right at the peak.
So no, yeah, so it really does reside. Sorry, my mic died, everyone. So this all really does reside within how we are brainwashing college kids to believe how finance works. Okay, because a lot of these professionals over the past few decades, okay, that have made their careers off of this expansion, okay, in government debt and in deficits, they think it's the best thing ever. They've built their careers, their portfolios, their wealth off of this system. And that's why this recency bias is so hard to uncover, and it's so hard to see these deficits for what they are, because literally everyone currently in power, their entire lives have been defined by this insane amount of spending and expansion and debt. So whenever you do talk to the boomer policymakers and say, hey, maybe we start trying to, you know, roll back deficits and start unwinding the federal government, they look at you like you're crazy. Because guess what? They own all the stocks and they own all the real estate that has benefited off of this insane expansion and inflation for the past few decades. So the boomers really are the winners in this system. And that's another big part of this problem too, because this real change in the system necessitates a generational shift. Because until the people are in power that the system victimized, nothing will stop. Because the boomers, I mean, think about it. Would you be mad if you bought a house for $7,000 in the 50s? And then now the medium home price is almost $500,000 in the US, right? I mean, they're not going to complain about that inflation rate because they all bought stocks and houses at cheap amounts, right? And nor do they want those assets to crash because that's what their lives are based on. So, the big thing is the generational shift in the system. That's what will really start pushing change in a profound way.
So I want to hear from both of you. What do you think the end result of this Doge governmental efficiency? Now, what do you think the end result, or what do you think will come from it? Profit.
I'm
Let's
gonna
get you first.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to let Devin go because
Okay,
I have no fucking clue.
fair enough.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to immediately assign intentions because here, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen too here now. I think it's difficult to assign exact intentions to everything, but for right now, we need to see them actually audit the federal government. And this is something me and Urban were talking about before we got on this call. The idea of someone like Ron Paul getting into the Federal Reserve and auditing them is unheard of. Okay, like we have not had a proper, actual third party audit of the Federal Reserve in I would argue since it's been erected. Okay, there has been nobody who has been an
Not
anti.
a public one.
Well, for sure, and there, especially the biggest thing is we need anti-Keynesians in there, because if you're a Keynesian economist and you go into the Federal Reserve, all their models check out, right? Everything looks good as long as they can keep inflating away our currency's value, okay, to keep pressure on debt loads from the federal government minimized, then we're good. And as long as they can maintain price stability and employment, let me break that down. If you watch any Federal Reserve chairman, specifically Powell, what he'll say over and over again is that the Federal Reserve is in place to maintain price stability and maximum employment. Let me break that down for the average person, because price stability means assets and debt markets maintaining their relative values, and then employment is keeping the slaves. And if the Federal Reserve is an institution, okay, that is literally in place to do those two things, and then they're the facilitators of the debt Ponzi scheme for the government, okay, they're literally telling us what they're doing, guys. Okay, they're keeping assets propped up and companies well fed so that we can have enough slaves to keep paying off the interest on the debt that they've allowed the Treasury to expand to ungodly amounts, right? And it's not particularly that they let the Treasury. There's collusion on both sides. I think at the end of the day, the Treasury and the Fed, they're very, very intermeshed. The Treasury and the Fed might as well be the same fucking thing at this point. So, that's the very sinister aspect of all of this. And that's why it is so important for someone who doesn't believe in this backwards Keynesian logic, okay, where enslaving people through debt, okay, and interest and spending that they're not a part of, because that's what it is. Unless you have someone in there that really has that belief, you're never going to get a good audit out of it. So that's why it's so important that Trump really does put on the big boy pants, get Ron Paul in the Federal Reserve, get Elon all the Treasury data. They need to go balls to the wall. And I'm sure if anybody that's been following it, the courts are already shitting their pants. So to really answer your question, in my opinion, they're going to have to start ripping up circuit court bureaucracy at the minimum to get through a lot of these blocks that these judges are putting out. So they're going to have to start ripping up the bureaucracy and breaking down a philosophy that has permeated financial professionals and economists for decades now. So, this is a multi-front war, and it is extremely complex.
I don't think they will allow a full audit of the Fed. Like, I think that would be too dangerous, because if they audit the Fed, and Prophet, I'll let you talk. I know you want to say something. If they audit the Fed, what's going to come out is who the stockholders of the Fed are. That is what they can't let get out, because if people find out who has owned the Fed all these years, they're going to find out it's not from the United States.
Damn straight. Well, I lost what I wanted to say earlier, so I wanted to.
I keep doing that.
No. That means, well, it wasn't important now. Devin, do you think it would be possible, in the current state of our economy, to reestablish a gold standard?
If you let all the assets crash 90%.
Let's do it. I want to buy a house.
And this is a crypto ledger, honestly, not a gold standard.
That's sadly what I'm guessing too.
The big thing in my opinion is they will try and maintain status quo for as long as possible, right? And this is a big thing that you can see with how markets are expressing themselves. Like, the reason why you haven't had a major correction really since 2008 is because everything is so effectively backstopped at this point. They have dominated the financial system on such a foundational level that the financial system could not run without the Fed. The primary dealers, without treasury auctions, would not be able to raise enough collateral to fund their daily operations. So, and this is a whole nother part of the nuance, right? Because if a large portion of our debt load is owned by primary dealer banks, which are, public institutions but privately owned, then, like, what does that say about our government if we have a deficit to all these different actors, right? I mean, it's just there's just so much collusion and corruption in all of this. And, I think that anybody that really looks into the, financial plumbing of the system will be disgusted, but what was your, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was your original question?
Oh, just about reestablishing a gold standard, and if that's possible.
So that's where I was going with the primary dealer thing. So, reestablishing the gold standard, you would just need such a fundamental, like, so many people at the banks would need to be and that's why this system has perpetuated itself for so long, right? It's because you really can't change anything in play right now without the whole thing collapsing in on itself. So we're in a very fragile point, but because it's so fragile, we're strong. If that makes sense, I think that's the best way I can put that.
Yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff.
So, okay, here's I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head. You see, in China is this model, the way that they're running things with the techno state. That is what the C40 smart city thing is. I might actually play that clip just so people can see. But this whole idea is that all these natural disasters keep coincidentally happening in places where they're going to be putting smart cities. And so I think that that is the only realistic direction that they could take currency. And I think what we are witnessing is a controlled, I don't know if I'll say on the finance, that remains to be seen, but a controlled, it's like they're trying to bring us towards some goal financially. And I think because we've got Elon Musk and we've got Peter Thiel, who owns Palantir, and he's also J.D. Vance's mentor, those two are in a perfect position to pioneer that. And I think that's why those have been positioned in the White House. That's why I think Elon Musk was brought in. I think that's why Vance, with little experience, has been selected as the vice president. And honestly, I think they have a lot to gain if Vance was to ever assume the presidency. Do you want me to play this clip on the smart cities or?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, let me see. It's a very it's a little ridiculous. This all these natural disasters keep happening where they've got smart cities planned, and it's like, whatever. Don't
Well, I
worry
mean,
about it.
in the California fires, over 5,000 acres were burned.
That's
Well,
crazy.
I'm getting different reports, but yeah, it's probably just bad AI.
Here, I'll play this video. This is a kind of a clip, and a part of this clip is from Pastor Carner's live show that he did on the C40 consortium, or whatever they call it. It's like this global network of mayors who have signed on to be smart cities. Here, let's see. I'm about to play it, and if we can comment on it. Let's see.
But such a caste system will not be implementable until they can force humanity into 15-minute so-called smart cities.
The C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, yeah, it's really a thing, is a global network of nearly 100 mayors of the world's leading cities that are united in action to confront the climate crisis. We're in a crisis. It gets so hot and so cold that people are dying. Grandma is dying. Founded in 2005, C40 is a nonprofit organization that supports cities in developing and implementing bold climate action plans that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and climate risks. Well, leave it to the cities. Put everybody in one place and pollute it there instead of out, on farmland, because that belongs to the government, doesn't it? Well, at least Bill Gates seems to think so. There are key objectives to this whole C40 city idea, or smart cities. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions. C40 helps cities develop and implement ambitious climate action plans that reduce emissions from transportation, buildings, energy, and waste. Put it all in one spot so we can pollute there instead of in the country. Building climate resilience is a focus. C40 supports cities in preparing for and adopting to the impacts of climate change, such as extreme weather events and rising sea levels. But they continue to sell condos for 40-year loans on the beaches of Florida. Wow. those sea levels sure seem to be rising, don't they? Improving urban health and well-being, C40 promotes climate action that benefits the health and well-being of urban residents, such as improving air quality in a city and increasing access to green spaces. We're going to give you a space, like in New York, a little space for you to appreciate nature. But you can't go outside the city. No. You see, you're a pollutant. And the rules are, in order to fight this climate change, to lower Earth's temperature by 2 degrees, we have got to shit in one place. And that's going to do it. Driving economic growth is a must. C40 helps cities transition to low-carbon economies that create jobs and improve livelihoods. Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but you're all made out of carbon. And carbon's got to go. That's the depopulation agenda that's been on, I don't know, since probably after World War II. Especially after the baby boom when our soldiers came home. You know what happened. C40 Cities is a global network of cities committed to addressing climate change. It provides a platform for cities to share knowledge, best practices, and resources, and to collaborate on innovative solutions to climate crisis. We're in a crisis.
It's all just a bunch of spells.
We know this because
none of that means anything.
When you walk outside,
Yeah, I agree.
there's forest fires everywhere. You just can't breathe. Gee, do you think it's the heavy metals that they're spraying in the atmosphere that's
No, it's definitely absolutely not
in
the
our
heavy
soil,
metal.
in
No.
our
it couldn't be
trees,
the
and
atmosphere.
I don't know, light them up like Roman candles? You see, I don't know if you guys knew this, but heavy metals, they light on fire. Yeah, and all of these forest fires are proof that it's not just raking the forests. That's not it. You see, they've been spraying us since 1995, according to a climate deal to combat global warming. The United Nations came together and said we have got to pollute the air with
You have
metals
to
like,
put
I don't know,
pesticides on your
strontium.
crops
Hey,
too.
how about barium?
Oh, yeah.
Come on. And aluminum.
There's
Well,
actually,
is that gonna
real quick,
hurt
there's this
the
chick
animals and
who
the plants?
Give it a pause,
noticed
Ruben.
chemtrails,
temporarily.
and
Till
I
we
can't
can
pause
get
it.
this whole
We've only
earth
got a
eating thing.
minute left.
Calm down.
oh,
And a couple of tra-la-las. We get up at 12 and start to work at 1. Taking out for lunch and then do it done. Jolly good fun! Ha ha ha! Ho ho ho! And a couple of tra-la-las. That's how we laugh the day away in the merry old land of Oz. Ha ha ha! Ho ho ho! Ha ha ha!
Like everything in the occult, this is pushed on us as progressive, illuminated, and freeing.
You will own nothing. Be happy and eat the bugs.
I'm Nicole Kidman, and I am going to eat a 4-course meal of bugs.
And they want you to eat these bugs inside a massive prison system that sees humanity as a cancer upon the earth.
For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions. Residents have access to all their daily needs within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. And the line's infrastructure makes it possible to travel end to end in 20 minutes with no need for cars, resulting in zero carbon emissions.
That's wild. I can't believe that this is actually something people are like, oh yeah, it probably can't be that bad. I mean,
Well, they've gaslighted everyone into believing that that we're going to be underwater in 20 years when the Statue of Liberty is at the same sea level it was fucking decades ago. That's the funniest
What?
thing when people
No,
bring
no,
up that shit.
it's what Carner said. It's that they keep giving loans, and when you're talking about loans and money, that's a big deal. They keep giving loans for beachfront property, and so what does that mean? What the hell are they doing? If this was an issue the way that they are talking about it, why are they still giving loans for beachfront property? That's a valid question.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I
totally.
completely agree.
It's just to obtain. I mean, it's to make a little bit of money off of the property you already own before you destroy it. It's like taking it. It's like taking insurance out 3 months before 9/11.
But Urban is completely correct, because it's like there's literally trillions of dollars potentially worth of real estate globally that would be affected by even just a few feet of sea level rising, and we have not, even in our entire lifetimes, seen or heard of any cataclysm where people are being forced out of their homes. I mean, I live in Florida, and there is not in my entire life the same houses, all right, on the beach are there. There's been nothing that has changed with those areas since I've been a child. And then if I ask my mom or I ask my grandma, hey, has Daytona Beach changed at all since you were a kid in the 70s? Like, no, it just hasn't. And that's like a fact of reality that it's just like people want to deny. And it's like that the climate change stuff is really like it's like the liberals' version of a doomer,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking bananas, honestly. I
Do you
mean, on
remember
the
what you were
smart
going to say
cities.
before? Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say on the heavy metals thing, I saw this
Mhm.
chick who, I mean, saw the chemtrails, when you see them in the sky, went on a ADSB exchange where you can just look at every single flight path in the world. It's pretty awesome. And she tracked it and did soil and air samples, and immediately after they would fly, there would be like a 4 times increase in aluminum and other metals for like a day or two afterwards. She actually confronted the pilots, and all the pilots didn't even deny that they were spraying like heavy metals and shit. All they would say is, "You got to talk to our boss or this official over here." And she's like, "I've been calling them and leaving messages. They don't call me back, so I'm going to you now." It's a pretty interesting video. I tried to find it, but I can't. It's like, yeah, that chemtrail shit is real. That shit is not just air vapor. You can trace it. You can look at it on ADBS Exchange, and you can do the samples yourself, and you will find it's so significant.
Now
And
they have this fog. Have you heard about the toxic fog that's in random? Like they're like, oh, the fog has got poisonous chemicals in it now. Have you heard
Jesus
of this?
Christ. No.
What? Crazy times, that's for sure. These are absolutely batshit crazy times. I mean,
then,
My
and then
research.
this is
Yeah.
let me just say this real quick, just to add to your point too, because like because let's just say, for sake of argument, let's say there isn't anything like Prophet was just saying. Even just like think about how concentrated jet fuel is. You have arsenic in it, you have formaldehyde, you have benzene, okay? You have all these like carcinogens, right? That substances that cause cancer, right? And who knows? I don't know the average, how many airplanes, but like think
Right
about how
now,
many
there's
planes fly over you.
12,500 airplanes in the air right
Yeah.
now on Earth.
Yeah. So it's like, and they're all flying over major metropolitan areas for the most part, if they're
Oh yeah,
domestic
I'd
based
say
flights.
probably a 70% of them are, because
So yeah, I mean,
it's
just do the math. You don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist, and that's the best part about a lot of this stuff. It's like,
if you do the math, you are a conspiracy theorist.
well, but my point is that like if you just take basic logic, you don't even have to like say, oh, there's planes in the air putting cancer chemicals.
Yeah,
It's
but
there's already
logic is a
planes in the air
conspiracy.
giving cancer chemicals. Like
exactly.
Basic logic actually is a conspiracy now. We're
yeah,
supposed
sure.
to, it says the news says now that we need to just give up on facts and you can't do your own research when it comes to science.
I can't help but laugh. It's like,
I mean,
how fucking stupid can you be?
this one's worth it. So give me a second. Let me
Oh,
pull the meme up with that because it's just too good not to.
yeah, I'll leave this statistic here. Now, this is Google AI, only place I could get a straight answer. The wildfires in Los Angeles have destroyed over 12,000 structures. And across the Palisades, Eaton, and August complex, they have destroyed more than 39,000 acres. That right there is a smart city move.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let's see. I got it. Let's pull it up just because this is pretty wild. I mean,
Questioning authority has become too much of a good thing, and it's killing people. Shut
yeah,
the fuck up.
that's the truth. I mean, that's what Big Brother says. It must be true.
You must not do your own research when it
Look,
comes to
here it is.
science.
Oh wait,
Jesus.
people can't see it. Hold up.
Oh my god.
There we go. If subtle mind control doesn't work, just straight up tell people to stop thinking. Oh, let's see.
And that's I hate to say it, but I could totally see a world where I present my sister my parasite information and research, and she's like, no, you just can't do your own research with these scientific things. You just don't understand it. Like, oh my god, I could see that happening. Like, this will work on a lot of people.
Trying times that we're living in, guys. Trying times. You guys have anything else to add or anything you want to bring up before we head off? We're right at the hour mark, and we want to know if you guys actually like this format, and we'll do it a little bit more often. The next show that we've actually got a really interesting show. It'll be on Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. And so we're going to have a guest on who has wrote some excellent articles on my Substack and has done some great legal analysis and legal opinions. And we're going to do another kind of laid back, chill stream. We're just going to talk to them and ask them some questions and just hear their thoughts about all of this stuff. So it'll be a very good show on Friday. But do you guys have anything to add?
I think the last thing I'll add is everyone should look the real reason for our reason for seceding from Britain in the Revolutionary Wars, because it wasn't from a tyrannical king. It was because we were getting away from the banking families in Europe and the oppressive taxation that British and European institutions, they were so indebted to those banking families that's why those taxes were being pushed on the American colonies to basically pay off those banking families. And the same thing is happening now, essentially, just with, larger banks.
Yeah, I would definitely follow that up and say definitely go back and don't just Google, don't just use AI, go back and read some of these. Go ahead, for instance, go read the I can't remember, it's on the tip of my tongue, the Treaty of Paris or the Treaty of Versailles, I think it was, where they ended the Revolutionary War. Go read that treaty that was signed, and you'll find some very interesting things in there. But, like we talked about yesterday, do you care to learn?
And then, and also, this is a good quote. Prophet, I have a quote for us to end on this time, Ruben, if once Prophet says.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say. Go ahead. End us off well.
Yeah, I think a good quote to end us off on, good old Henry Ford. I would say Henry Ford might have some credence and some knowledge that we probably don't know. Henry Ford said himself, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning."
Yeah, that's a great quote, and it's very true. I'm actually with Henry Ford on that one, because Thomas, for instance, there's a couple other quotes. There's two ways to enslave a nation. One is by the sword, and the other is through debt. And Thomas Jefferson said that if we ever allowed a central bank to control the printing of our currency, that one day we would all wake up and we would be I can't remember what he says. We would be homeless on the continent that our grandfathers founded. So the central banks are a disaster, and everyone should know that. And if you don't, then you really don't understand the system. If you really understood what these central banks are doing, they are printing money out of nothing. The money is not money. The money is debt. That's why we call it a dollar bill. If I hand you a $20 bill, I haven't handed you $20. I've handed you a bill for $20. That's how illogical this whole system is.
Oh my God.
Yep,
Well,
absolutely correct.
That's a whole different tirade. We'll do something on that. Maybe we'll talk about that on Friday a little bit. But guys, let us know if you like this this format. If you like this kind of laid back and just chatting and looking through stuff, let us know if you like it. Other than that, guys, thank you for joining in. Thank you for listening to us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Peace
All right,
out,
thank you, everyone.
guys.
Have a good one.